Welcome to Halacha in a Year, where we can get to learn all the most relevant halacha through the prism of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. You are listening to Rabbi Ya'akov Trump. This year is kindly sponsored by the Moshe Group and CA in zechus of Rivka Biela bas נחama Shifra and in honor of Rabbi Trump. Today, we're going to be learning about the halachas of the Davening on Shabbos. This is Siman Ayin Vav, the 76th chapter in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. We're going to look at the first part today, part 1, which is going to deal with three concepts: Ma'ariv on Shabbos, Kiddush in Shul, and Shabbos morning davening. Let's jump straight in. The first concept is Ma'ariv on Shabbos. So a few basics. When can we daven Ma'ariv on a Friday night? So technically speaking, we have a special edition called Kabbalah Shabbos. We're bringing in the Shabbos early. And this precedes the Ma'ariv. This Kabbalah, Shabbos, and Ma'ariv should be davened earlier than a regular Ma'ariv during the week. It should be done so because there is a mitzvah of Tosefes Shabbos, of adding on to Shabbos. Regularly, women have the opportunity of doing Tosefes Shabbos remarkably easily, because when they light their candles at the 18 minutes, they are taking in 18 extra minutes of Shabbos from the time of sunset, which is when Shabbos will come in by default. However, for men, oftentimes they'll go to shul, they'll daven mincha, and a lot of times mincha is positioned just before sunset, so they will have finished mincha, and before they even start Kabbalah Shabbos, Shabbos has come in, which means they've lost their opportunity to do the Tosefes Shabbos, the addition to Shabbos. However, if a person has their druthers, has the ability to be able to make the decisions necessary, they should try to ensure that the minyan that they're davening at is well before Shkia, in such a way that they're able to do at least Kabbalah Shabbos before Shkia, before the time has come. So much so, says the Kitzur, that even if, let's say, one davens mincha Ma'ariv during the week at around sunset, so one davens mincha before sunset, here's a Devar Torah, then davens Ma'ariv after sunset, although that's the regular way that things are done, when it comes to Shabbos, one may daven around plug, which means that the plug mincha is going to be 1.25 hours before the end of the day, and so one can daven mincha before the plug and Ma'ariv after the plug, even though one doesn't usually do it during the week because of adding on to Shabbos. Technically speaking, it's important to notice that there are two plugs. The plug mincha that we usually refer to is that of the Vilna Gaon, who measures the plug mincha 1.25 relative hours, measured by dividing the time of the day between sunrise and sunset into 12 equal portions. However, the Magen Avraham, it's to be noted, does count those 12 relative hours from dawn to stars out, and that would mean it's a longer period of time. The relative hours are slightly longer, and its plug is later, which is why the Ma'ariv in our shul, when we make our Ma'arivs, our Mincha Ma'arivs and our Kabbalah Shabbos during the summer, there are three. There's the Zman, which is around sunset, the Mincha before and Kabbalah Shabbos or Ma'ariv after sunset, and then there is the earlier ones, which are around the plug of the Magen Avraham and the plug of the Vilna Gaon. It's worthwhile noting that a shul that has a 7 o'clock flat mincha Kabbalah Shabbos throughout the entire summer is not adhering to this, and is simply davening Tarotei Desasre, which means that they're davening mincha and Ma'ariv in the same zone, which is incorrect, generally speaking. If there is anything different about the Friday night Ma'ariv, the answer is yes. We add a few things in. So we first add Kabbalah Shabbos. Kabbalah Shabbos is comprised of 6 parakim of Tehillim, which relate to the 6 days of the week. Then we say Ana B'Koach, which is a 42-word poem, essentially, which relates to the 42-word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem's name. Then there is Lechadodi, which is a 9-stanza beautiful poem which was created by Rosh Shlomo Alkabetz 500 years ago, welcoming in Shabbos when he was in the hills of Tzfat. And then there's Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbos, the psalm for the day of Shabbos. Then Hashem Aloch Gael Slavesh, which is the psalm actually for Friday. And Kaddish B'Mem Badlikem or Kagavna. That's the Kabbalah Shabbos part. What about the Ma'ariv? What's different itself? So mostly Ma'ariv is the same, but we have the second bracha after the Kriyas Shema, which is Hashkivenu, it ends differently. So we then also we have Vayechulu and a bracha Achas Me'en Sheva after the Amidah, followed by Kiddush and then Aleinu. So let's just jump straight into each of those. Why is Hashkivenu different? So on a regular weekday we say the following: Kikel Melech Nivra Chamata, you are a merciful king. You should guard our goings and our comings for peace forever. And the bracha ends, Baruch atah Hashem shomer amo Yisrael ad. Blessed is Hashem who guards his nation of Israel for all times. On Shabbos we change it differently, slightly differently. So we say Hashem should guard our comings and goings. But then we add an extra line. You should spread across us your canopy of peace. Hashem should spread his canopy of peace over the nation of Israel and over Jerusalem. The reason for this difference is because that on Shabbos it's seen as a protection for the nation of Israel, and therefore we don't actively ask for protection, we ask for the canopy of peace, because we acknowledge that Shabbos has its own protective properties as well. What if I finish like a regular weekday? So I said Ashkevenu, and in fact in many Siddurim it looks very similar to do the weekday Ma'ariv and the Shabbos Ma'ariv. What happens if I say Shomer Amo Yisrael La'ad, which is the weekday conclusion of the bracha, instead of the Shabbos one? So if it's after Toich Gadei Dibur, so I can no longer correct myself after 3 seconds, then I will have fulfilled my obligation. It is sufficient to fulfill the obligation of that bracha, the Kriya Shema. One does not need to repeat it as well. What is this business about saying Vayechulu after the Amidah? So Vayechulu is the paragraph which is really the beginning of the second perek, the second chapter in Bereshis, which is when Hashem first created the world and ceased activity of creation on Shabbos. And that paragraph is said as a testimony to the creation of the heavens and the earth in 6 days of creation, which is why it is said standing and together, because it is seen as testimony of people doing it together. What happens if I missed it? So let's say I was davening my Amidah and the community finishes earlier than I do, and everybody says it together. I missed that. So one should endeavor to try to find somebody else to say it with, because it's testimony, and testimony should be said in a groups of 2 rather than by a singularity, and it should be said standing as well. What's this business with Magen Avos? So Magen Avos is a special bracha. It's part of the bracha called Bracha Achas Me'in Sheva, a bracha which is a summary of the 7. What is the 7? It refers to the 7 brachas that are said on a regular Friday night. On a regular Friday night, or a Shabbos, instead of there being 19 brachas in the Shemona Esrei, the middle 13, the bakoshas, the requests, are removed, and in their place is Kiddush HaSayam. The bracha is only about the holiness of the day. So this bracha is a summary. If you look carefully through Magen Avos, you'll see that it is a summary. Each phrase is a summary of one of the 7 brachas which are in the Shemona Esrei. So it's like a small Chazara Sashatz. How is it said? So usually the Baal Tefillah does the first bracha, then everybody says Magen Avos, that paragraph, then the Chazara, then the Baal Tefillah would repeat that paragraph after everybody is finished. You'll notice that in Yerushalayim, or in some places that follow Minhag Agra, that this repetition is not said in the same way. Or the Baal Tefillah says it with them. There's different minhagim, but that's the standard procedure. What if Shabbos Yom Tov fell on Shabbos? So then one would still say it, except in the first night of Pesach if it's a Shabbos. Where does one say it? So one only says it in a minyan kavua, which means a minyan which gathers consistently and davens all the time. Even if it happens to be seasonal, but it cannot be, let's say, at a simcha gathering, a destination simcha, and so on, where there's a once-off minyan held. One would not say the bracha achas me'in sheva. Why do we do bamei madlikim? So it's important to know the halachos of the day on the day. And bamei madlikim is the second parak of Mishnahs in Maseches Shabbos, of the 24 parakim in Maseches Shabbos, and it deals with the lighting of candles and preparing for Shabbos, and therefore it is said there at that point in time. When is it said? So many said before Baruch Hu, some said after the Amidah as well. As noted before, and in Nusach Svar, they say Kagavna, which is a paragraph from the Zohar instead. When is Bamei Madlikim usually omitted? It is omitted on Yom Tov or on Chol HaMoed, which are on Shabbos. We jump into the next concept, which is Kiddush in Shul. Is Kiddush done in Shuls on Friday night? So there are different minhagim. The Kitzur relates that in Hungary, there was the minhag to do this. Why did this minhag come into being? So the situation was that wayfarers, people who would be traveling, would come to Shul on a Friday night. All they had is a little bit of their meals that they had that they brought with them, but they didn't know anybody, they didn't have a place to stay. So they would listen to the Kiddush in Shul, and that Kiddush would be their Kiddush, and then they'd go home and they would eat. Surely one needs Kiddush from Makom Soda, so no one's making and there's Su'udah in Shul, so how does that Kiddush even operate? It needs to have, the Kiddush is connected to the meal. So there is an opinion that if one drinks a revius of wine, which is around between 86 and 150 milliliters of the grape juice of the wine, that is considered the Su'udah itself. The grape juice is the Su'udah itself. This is in addition to the Meloi Lugav, beyond the cheekful of wine that one does to fulfill the mitzvah Kiddush. If one has an extra revius, that is sufficient. That's how it's done. So who really drinks it? So today we usually give it to a child. It should be a child over the age of 6. And the reason is because just in case there's no wayfarers in shul, so therefore no one's being yotze in the kiddush, one doesn't want it to be a bracha levatala, but one doesn't want to give it to an adult because they need to have kiddush mawakosula, they need to go home to where their family is as well. So usually it's given to a kid. What happens if there is no child? So in that case, the shliach tzibur, the person who's leading the davening, should drink it and make sure to have a cheekful and a revius so that they were yotzei kiddush makom suda, and they may say kiddush again because if their family has not heard kiddush when they get home. We move into our third concept, and that's Shabbos morning davening. Shabbos morning davening is more extensive. It's like a regular davening with more extensions. So there's an extended Pesukah Zimra. Birkos Kriya Shema and Shabbos are the same Birkos Kriya Shema with the first one being somewhat longer. The Amida on Shabbos is unique. So meaning to say it's the same. It's 7 brachos, but the middle bracha, Kiddush HaSayom, or the sanctity of the day, is different to the one that was done the night before. We'll discuss that next time. Why? Then after that we do Kriyas HaTorah. The Kriyas HaTorah is 7 aliyahs, Maftir and Haftorah. We do some Mishaberachs for the community, for the government. And then there's Avarachim, commemorating the Crusades which occurred during the period between Pesach and Shavuos. Then we have Ashrei, we return the Torahs, and Musaf, Ein Kilokenu, Aleinu Shira Kavod, which is Adin Zmiras, and then there's Shir Shel Yom, the song of the day. So it's a more extensive davening and service than usual. A few basic questions. When should davening on Shabbos morning be? So it should be later than during the weekday davening. One should not be davening at the same time one davens in the weekday, and that's because Sheina Shabbos Tanag. Sleeping on Shabbos is an enjoyment. Enjoyment is part of fulfilling the mitzvah of Oineg Shabbos. And the Kitzur even quotes a very interesting remez, a hint to this, where he says that it says by the Korban Tamid, the weekday sacrifice that was brought every day in the temple, that it says by Boiker, it was brought in the morning, but on that same Korban which was brought on Shabbos, it describes it uve Yom HaShabbos, on the day of Shabbos, implying that it's not in the immediate morning. At the same time, the Kitzur obviously makes us aware that one should be careful that one is davening Kriya Shema Bizman, that Kriya Shema may only be said in the first 3 relative hours in the day, and a lot of times, certainly in the summer when the sun rises so early, one could be at risk of davening too late as well. So there's this balance of, on the one hand, being later than the weekday, but on the other hand, being in time to daven Kriya Shema at the right time. Until when can it? So when is Musaf done? It's done right after the Shachris, when one puts away the Torah. Until when may it be done? It should be done up till 7 hours in the day. If I miss the 7 hours in the day, did I fulfill my obligation? The answer is yes. But one's called a posher, one's called negligent for waiting for up to 7 hours. What happens if I have a conflict? So let's say I am davening and I reach 6.5 hours into the day. So it's after Chatzos already, so even after midday, and it's now half an hour to midday. I can say mincha already, and I can either choose to do mincha first or musaf first. So which one should I do? So technically speaking, one should really do mincha, because mincha is called tadir. It is more frequent than musaf. It happens every day. So tadir v'she'ena tadir kodem. We always do the more frequent mitzvah more than the one which is less frequent first. However, if one is davening in a minyan, one should always daven musaf first, because it can be misunderstood and mistakes will occur because of this. We're going to stop here in our perspective of the Shabbos davenings, and Be'ezras Hashem we're going to pick up tomorrow where we finish up some of the other aspects, mistakes, and an overall perspective. A wonderful